YouTube, what's going on? It's Rob with Spray or Splash Fragrance Reviews. Today I am back with a video where I'm going to be doing strictly honorable mentions. If you're interested in finding out what those fragrances are, please stay tuned. All right, so in my last video, I said I was going to do a video where it was going to be strictly honorable mentions. I know in a lot of videos, cats will put that at the beginning of the video, end of the video, but I've got so many fragrances that I didn't put in my summer suggestions video that I wanted to put in the video, but for time constraints, I couldn't. So I've got my honorable mentions video here, and I've got tons of fragrances. I'm not going to give a lot of information like I would usually do in regard to the nose on the fragrance, prices, etc., all the notes. It's just going to be me talking about the fragrance really briefly so I can move on to the next one. So let's get right into it. First up is from the House of Guerlain. This is L'Homme Ideal Cool. I know a lot of folks have got the original, they've got the EDP, Extreme, they've got the Cologne, and some of the other releases. I know for a lot of folks, you might kind of be on the fence in regard to, is this worth checking out? I like this one. Cool is actually a pretty decent fragrance. It stays in line with the rest of the fragrances where it's got that almondy note as the center, kind of creamy, but it's adding like this minty cooling effect to the fragrance that gives it, you know, a nice appeal for the warmer weather. If you've been on the fence for this one, I think you should check it out. I think it's worth copying if it's something that you would be looking for. So again, Cool from the L'Homme Ideal line from Guerlain. Classic vibes. This is from the House of Byredo. This is Sunday Cologne. Folks don't really talk about this one too much. This is basically classic, spicy, aromatic men's fragrance, and it's done in a really like clean, I don't want to say modern, but it's like it doesn't have such an old school feel. It feels classic, but it doesn't feel old fashioned. You know, like maybe something like you might think like an Old Spice or something along those lines. It's a more modern take on that type of fragrance style, but it's one that I really enjoy wearing, and it's something that I would find myself wearing more like in the morning of a warmer day versus like in the evening to late at night. But it's a definite solid offering, and one that I think if that style of fragrance is something you like, check out. From the House of Byredo, Sunday Cologne. Super solid vetiver fragrance, one I think every man should have in his collection, honestly. From the House of Les Artisans Parfumés, this is Timbuktu. I've talked about this fragrance multiple times in multiple videos. It's such a classic vetiver fragrance. It's got a little bit of smokiness to it. It is a Swiss Army knife type fragrance, and I think this is one that I feel every man should have in his collection. So check this one out. Timbuktu Les Artisans Parfumés. OG from the House of Bulgari. This is Aqua pour Homme. I think this fragrance has been discontinued, but it is a super duper safe marine aquatic type fragrance. If you've never smelled it and you run across this fragrance, you can buy this one with confidence. It is very well done, universally liked for the most part. A lot of fragrances kind of copy this particular fragrance's DNA. I can't say anything that hasn't already been said about the fragrance. If I had to recommend any from that group of fragrances, I would definitely probably recommend this one first. It's just solid, and I think you can make a purchase on this fragrance with really very, very minimal worries. Great classic fragrance, Aqua pour Homme from the House of Bulgari. An offering that I really enjoyed from the House of JUL ET MAD, this is Stairway to Heaven. This is musk, and it's musk that is done in a way in which it is almost like this wispy feeling musk. It almost has like a cotton candy feel to it. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, the lightness of cotton candy. As soon as you put cotton candy in your mouth, it disappears. And I don't mean that the fragrance is a fleeting fragrance, but it has like this this really cool lightness to it with this sweetness, almost like a cotton candy. Very appealing fragrance. It is truly unisex. Nice dent. My son has put a dent in this bottle. He likes this one a whole lot. I like it a lot. If you like musk fragrances and that sounds interesting to you, check this one out. Stairway to Heaven, JUL ET MAD. You can actually catch this one from time to time right around $100, believe it or not, at great market discounters. Stairway to Heaven, JUL ET MAD. Niche house that gives you bang for your buck. This is the house of Molinard, and this fragrance is Florida Oranger. It's basically like a citrus, floral, musk fragrance, unisex. It's for dress up. Performance is moderate. It's kind of a, you know, I don't want to say skin scent, but it kind of sits closer to the body, but it has like a sophisticated feel to it. I think a lot of folks would like this one. From the house of Molinard, again, this is Florida Oranger. From the house of Kenzo and the Kenzo Pour Homme line, this is the EDT Intense. You see folks talk about the EDP version the most, not the EDT Intense too often. This has got like this calypso note, which is supposed to represent like a, I guess, a watery watermelon type of chord. It's got C notes, it's got fig, and I think it's an extremely attractive smelling fragrance. Now, I must warn you that a lot of folks will say this fragrance from time to time will have like this dill-like accord that you can smell. And when I first got the fragrance, I couldn't really get it. I couldn't smell that. The longer I've had it, I can pick that out. I don't get it all the time. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fig mixing with the calypso note or what is kind of giving it that type of feel, but nevertheless, it's still an attractive smelling fragrance, and one I really think more folks should be talking about. I think it's a really well done fragrance. It feels more niche than it does designer, but hey, you guys be the judge. Honorable mention, EDT Intense Kenzo Pour Homme. From the house of Hermes, Eau des Merveilles Bleu. I've had this particular fragrance in summer suggestion videos of past, and this is a fragrance that's actually pitched to women, but I really believe the fragrance is truly unisex. It's kind of got that aquatic, slightly salty, slightly woody, clean, almost has like this minty geranium type feel somewhere in the background, but it's not really listed as a note. But it's a fragrance that I thoroughly enjoy. I think that this is a fragrance that if more people tried it, they would really enjoy it. I can't speak for how it's spoken of in, you know, circles for women's fragrance, but I really think this is a fragrance that men need to really consider as an option. This is a really nice fragrance, and you know, what can you say about Hermes? Most Hermes fragrances are well done. So again, from the house of Hermes, this is Eau des Merveilles Bleu. From the house of Electimuss, this is Imperium. This is basically a cross between Anonyme by Njie and Aventus by Creed. Take those two, you know, fragrance profiles, put them together, and that's pretty much what you have. I don't really feel like I need to say a whole lot. Kind of like vanilla with the pineapple, with smoky birch, you know, other things in the background, but it's just a fragrance profile that a lot of folks like. You can usually catch this fragrance at gray market discounters for like around $125, $135, somewhere in that ballpark is where you can find it. One that I really like, and it just didn't fit into my summer suggestions, but it's definitely an honorable mention. Again, from the house of Electimuss, this is Imperium. If I had to recommend a fragrance to somebody that was looking to build their fragrance again from scratch, they had limited budget and they wanted like all-purpose fragrances, this is one I would highly recommend. This is Kiton Men. If you know Green Irish Tweed by Creed, it's kind of in that vein. I'm not going to say it's a copy, but it's in that vein. Really nicely made fragrance, and it works for office, it works for casual, it works for going out on a date, sporty. It's just a great, well-made, balanced fragrance that I think it doesn't matter your age, It's just well done. And you can cop this one, believe it or not, now, I want to say probably like around between like 65 to like 80 bucks or sometimes even less. I've seen this one in Marshall's before. And I think I've also seen it in TJ Maxx. So sometimes it'll find its way into discounters like that. But just well done fragrance. If you've never checked this fragrance out, guys, if you are like new to fragrances and you want something solid that's not going to smell too old, too young, this is going to be good all the way around. Kiton, man, great bang for your buck. I talk about this fragrance always for really, really warm weather and how well it performs. This is Dune from the house of Christian Dior. Yeah, this is one was, came out when Christian Dior would be on the bottle versus it just being Dior. Dry, kind of sandy smelling, slightly oily, but clean and fresh, all rolled into one. That's kind of what Dune is to me. I really enjoy the fragrance. I've got 2 bottles of this one. I've got this 1.7 and I've also got the 3.4 ounce. I'm going to always have this in my collection because of the way it smells. It's just a timeless fragrance to me. Believe it or not, it's a fragrance that wasn't really well received when it hit the market, but sometimes fragrances work for you. You just got to get them on your skin and try them out for yourself. I thoroughly enjoy this fragrance and I highly recommend it. Whenever I speak on warm weather fragrances, Dune is one that works for me. And again, this is definitely it's honorable mention worthy. It's actually worthy to be in the suggestions video. I just didn't put it in there this year. Again, from the house of Christian Dior, Dune. From the house of Carolina Herrera and the CH Man line, this is Central Park. This fragrance is currently discontinued. It is a little hard to find currently, but it can be found. Note I'll make is that a lot of folks used to say that the CH Man fragrance had been reformulated and it didn't perform the way it used to, and then this came out and everybody's comment basically was this one smelled closer and performed closer to the original. The difference between this one and the original in regard to smell is that they added this green accord to it that made it a little bit more versatile. So this is definitely a fragrance that you can wear when it's warmer outside, springtime, summertime. For summertime, I would say more summertime evenings or at night. Maybe when it's like mid 80s. I really wouldn't wear it when it's above that. I don't know if this is a fragrance that works well with high heat or high humidity, but it is definitely a sexy, attractive fragrance. It does have a slight bit of playfulness to it, but it doesn't smell juvenile. So, if you're inclined, again, from the house of Carolina Herrera and the CH Man line, this is Central Park. Another one from the house of Atelier Cologne. This is Rose. I believe it's pronounced Anonyme. This is one that is unisex, but it's got freshness and it's got sweetness, but it's not overly sweet. It is a unisex fragrance, but it's not ultra femme. This is a fragrance that men can definitely wear, and I think on masculine skin, it's going to be that much more appealing to a female. So with the brand being defunct, no longer in business, this particular fragrance is becoming harder and harder to find. If you ever run across a bottle of this, I think it's worth copping. It's a great rose fragrance, and if you don't like it for yourself, you could always, sell it to somebody else. But again, from the house of Atelier Cologne, this is Rose Anonyme. If I'm going to recommend like a beachy vacation fragrance, I'm going to recommend Tropica from Njie. This is a 1.7 or 50 ml bottle. It's a niche house, or say this is an indie house. This fragrance is nice. It's light. It's got like a coconut / vanilla, not so much like suntan lotion feel. It's got this freshness mixed in with this tropical feel, but it's not to a point where it feels like it's a copy of every other vacation fragrance. This fragrance does have a bit of class to it. It's refined. It's got moderate performance, in my opinion. Really great fragrance to me for vacation time. Give this one some consideration. It's a little harder to find, but you can find it. From the house of Njie, this is Tropica. One that I don't talk about as much as I used to from the house of Carolina Herrera, this is Chic for men. This fragrance is like this combination of like this watermelon accord, violet, and I believe it's got like fig leaf in it. I think this is a very attractive fragrance. Folks don't really talk about it anymore. It's probably like about maybe like 8 to 10 years old at this point, maybe older than that. I could be mistaken. But I really think that this is a solid release, and I really feel like it's not dated. It's still, I think it should still be a relevant fragrance. Folks should be talking about it. Performance-wise, I can't speak on it because I've got the older bottle, and this one performs very, very well. I've heard that the newer, like clear bottles, don't perform as well, so I can't really speak on that. So take my, suggestion with a grain of salt, or the honorable mention with a grain of salt. What I have, I believe, is really good. But if you're interested, do a little research. Check this one out. This one, is an oldie but goodie. Chic for Men by Carolina Herrera. From the House of Olfactive Studios, Still Life. This is basically a fresh, spicy, aromatic fragrance with woods in the base and some leather in the far dry down. Why it's not talked about more, I can't really say. I enjoy the fragrance. You can catch this one on discount at discounters currently, right around $100. What's not to like? Still Life, Olfactive Studios. Another fragrance from the House of Olfactive Studios. This is Ombre Indigo. This one is different. I really think that this is a very nice fragrance. It is like salty, like ambergris almost, with some floral components, a little bit of sweetness, slightly powdery, kind of aromatic, but not quite. It's just different. This is one that you've got to smell for yourself. I think that this to me truly is. This is a niche fragrance to me. When I think of niche, this is a niche fragrance. This is against the grain, different, left field, but it's so good to me. It's definitely an honorable mention. Ombre Indigo, Olfactive Studios. A fragrance you don't hear me talk about too much on the channel, that is Elysium by Roja Dove. Roja was smart. He kind of saw what was going on in the designer market with the like blue aquatic fragrances, took that DNA and kicked it up a notch. This fragrance comes off to me like it is this bright citrus that's kind of tart, that's got some green qualities, kind of aquatic, but more ozonic. It's got notes of lime, bergamot, it's got birch, it's got pink pepper, juniper berry, it's got some cedar in the base, ambergris. I mean, it's a really well done fragrance. Everybody talks about it, so you don't really see me talking about it. It's like a high-end designer fragrance to me, and you'd be lucky to get this one between like 140 to 160. I think for the most part, it's going to probably be more like 190. It's going to be where you find this fragrance, but if you can find it in that 140 to 160 space, thumbs up. But definitely an honorable mention and very well received by most of the FragCom. Roja Dove's Elysium. From the House of Narciso Rodriguez, this is Bleu Noir EDT Extreme. I did a video on this line back before they added the Parfum version. The EDT Extreme basically has got the classic Narciso Rodriguez musk, base in it, but it's got like kind of a zesty lime-like citrus opening when you spray it. Some folks will say that the mid kind of feels like it's a body wash almost, but I have to, I don't know if I agree with that 100%. I mean, it's very simple, but you get that musk that Narciso Rodriguez is known for in the base, which to me kind of like keeps it grounded in that goodness. One to check out if you've never checked out anything from the Bleu Noir line. But again, this is the EDT Extreme from Narciso Rodriguez. I got to throw a classic in there. From the house of Franco Smalto, this is Molto Smalto. This is like a really nice lavender fragrance that is a little scratchy in the opening, but in the base, it's basically this smooth lavender with vanilla, with almost feels like some like cardamom there also. Classic old school fragrance that doesn't smell dated to me, and it's one that one of those fragrances from back in the day where the dry down is just killer. All right, so if you are interested in the hunt and you like the classic fragrances, Malto Smalto from Franco Smalto. Coming down to my last two. First is H24 Parfum by Hermes. I've also got the EDT. I really like this one. I know a lot of folks didn't like this one. This one definitely had mixed reviews. I really like the citrus with the sweetness, and then like the woody base. And I know a lot of folks said the woody base was kind of boring, and it like after the opening they didn't really like it too much. There's also like this metallic quality there. I really enjoy this fragrance, and I got the Parfum. The Parfum to me is more smoothed out. So if you don't like the EDT, you might like the Parfum more. But I think that this is definitely a solid release and definitely worth an honorable mention. So again, from the house of Hermes, H24. Last but not least, from the house of Atelier d'Orange, this is You or Someone Like You. This is this really nice minty, citrusy, great warm weather fragrance. That's all I can say. This one, the mintiness of this one shines through, and it's not like a generic gum. It's more of a natural smelling mint. I really like this one. You or Someone Like You from Atelier d'Orange. And I said this was the last one, but I'm gonna put one more out there that you're gonna probably be surprised about. And this one is from the house of Room 1015. This is Cherry Punk, and I know a cherry leather fragrance is not something that you would ever think you would want to wear when it's warm out, but hear me out. This fragrance is not this crazy projecting fragrance, and it's extremely attractive, and the leather is, it's kind of it's not this super duper like heavy duty leather. It's kind of smooth with it. The cherry smooths it out. I'm gonna say nighttime dates, go lighter on the sprays, and it's not crazy hot outside, you could pull this one off, believe it or not. In my opinion, I think I could pull this one off at night, depending upon how hot it is. You know, I definitely would alter my sprays, but I think that this is a fragrance because the leather, it's not like this overly heavy leather. I think this one could get pulled off. So again, those are my honorable mentions, guys. I thank you for sticking through the long video. I thank you so much for coming back and checking my channel. Until next time, peace.